No. I have to do a top 10 of 2022. But I'm not sure I can limit it to just 10. What can I do? I have an idea. Maybe you don't have to talk just about 10.
Hello and welcome to today's video. I am going to be talking about some of my favourite reads of 2022, but I couldn't just limit it to 10. I can't do that. These other booktubers, I envy their discipline to limit it to just 10 with maybe a few honourable mentions, but I can't do that. So I'm going to be talking about 30 books, but today, just 10. I'll be doing my 30th favourite to 21st favourite read of 2022, and then I'll do two other videos, each one tackling 10, and the third one of this series will be going from my 10th favourite to the first favourite, but I just couldn't leave these other books out of it. It would be unfair. I think we can all agree on that. So thank you in advance for watching. Hopefully you enjoy some of these books I talk about, and hopefully you pick some of them up. And let me know in the comments below if you've read these, enjoy these, what your thoughts were, or any books that you think I would enjoy that are similar to these. Thank you so much, and again, hope you enjoy. So first up in that number 30 spot, the first book I'll be talking about today, and that is Maleficent 7 by Cameron Johnston. So this is a book I went into without really knowing what was going to happen in it, a few little tidbits here and there, but other than that, I went in blind, and I reaped the rewards because this was a great read. This was really interesting, a great mix of characters in an epic world, and with some epic action sequences unfolding in this book. It is one that it doesn't take itself seriously, but at the same time that is mirrored by some very serious tones that come into play. But I love how Cameron Johnston balances that so it's not jarring. So it's a very engaging, fun read that is very smooth and you can easily blitz through this. But at the same time, it has that added depth to the characters which really immerses you and engages you. That level further that makes you love a book instead of liking it. And so yeah, I thought that this was really, really good, and Cameron Johnston, I will definitely be keeping an eye out on what he puts out next. This is kind of inspired by Magnificent 7 with that setup of 7 people having to defend an area, but very different, subversive, puts it into a fantasy lens, fantasy world. And I love how these characters, they are taking fantasy tropes like the Pirate Queen, the retired Orc Warrior, the Necromancer, and initially they have little bits that seem very typical of that stereotype of that character, but then Cameron Johnston, he seems like he's had so much fun subverting these characters and creating them and giving them something unique to add to their character. So it felt like that weird mix of nostalgia of classic fantasy, but then at the same time very different and unique and fresh, and he really got the best of both worlds there. And so this is a read that really took me by surprise, and I'm really happy I enjoyed it, and I really hope that some of you pick it up. Next up, one of my last reads of 2022, and that was Along the Razor's Edge by Rob J. Hayes. This is the book one of his series, and yeah, I really enjoyed it, hence why it's on this list. Surprise, surprise. And so yeah, this is the 29th spot on my list. So I thought that this be quite typical that I could predict what was going to happen, because we have a character who, she's 15 or 16, her name is Ascara, and she was a sorceress, part of an army, and she lost, her side lost, and she was thrown into a pit which stripped her sorcery from her and placed her in prison for the rest of her life. And so I thought, okay, this book is going to be her pretty early on escaping, joining a resistance, setting up a rebellion, bada bing, bada boom, and then you'll go from there. I was very, very wrong. I should have known after reading Never Die by Rob J. Hayes that he is not scared to take fantasy in a new direction and to go against the reader's expectations. It's quite a bold move and brave, because readers often have expectations for a reason, it's what they'd like to see, but Rob J. Hayes, he does it brilliantly, and even though you don't expect any of these things, they are so enjoyable. And there's a great cast of characters at the heart of it. They are very nasty to each other, they're very sharp, a lot of it is about self-preservation. Obviously they're chucked in a pit where they are all criminals, murderers, thieves, what have they done? And a lot of them don't know why the others are in there, or if they're telling the truth and what their true motivations are. And I love it when it's kind of that double-edged sword of the main character is rooting for own motivations, but if you live by the sword, die by the sword, that saying is very prominent in this book. And so yeah, it was a really engaging read. I think that the main strength was Rob J. Hayes' authorial voice. It is very efficient and effective, and as I said, very brave. It feels like a confident book. It's been confidently written, and that adds so much emphasis to a story, I think, because it's a bit like when I read Empire of the Vampire by J. Christoph, or also Mark Lawrence's books, Book of the Ancestor. When you've got that confidence, or you seem like you have that confidence anyway, it just makes the book feel even more immersive and engaging because it feels so different and unique, and most importantly, organic. And so yeah, I really enjoyed Along the Razor's Edge, and I highly recommend reading it. If you doubt the quality of self-published books, try out this book. In the number 28 spot, I have a beloved book of 2022. It burst onto the scene. It was a release of 2022, originally self-published and then traditionally published. Can you guess what it is? It is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This is slice of life fantasy at its best. If you're looking for an epic fantasy story with swashbuckling adventures and epic battles, then don't read this. But if you're looking for a book about an orc veteran who is retiring and setting up her own coffee shop, read this. This is the perfect book for you. I don't know how many people were wanting to read a book like that before they saw this, but now there are hundreds and thousands because so many people have enjoyed this. It's just kind of swept across the fantasy community and been so successful, and for a reason, because as I said, it's slice of life at its best. I did not know how attached and engaged I could be in a coffee shop being set up. I was so tense, and I didn't really realise it at the time, but then when it kind of got to the climax, the conclusion of this story, I realised how engaged I was, and it kind of took me aback. I was a bit surprised, but it really showed how much I'd enjoyed this read. And so yeah, Legends of Lattes on it for a reason. It's on many people's lists this year, and I will be doing a review of Legends and Lattes on the channel soon. Actually, it may already be out because I filmed it, but I'm not sure if I'll put this video out first or Legends and Lattes. But anyway, it will be on the channel at some point very soon. Before I talk about my 27th favourite read of 2022, I just want to say, if you want to see loads of book reviews and just hear my thoughts on these books, then please do subscribe to the channel. I love talking about books with everyone who puts comments down below, as I said earlier. And so yeah, please do join this little community. I may be starting a Discord soon, but I'm not sure. But anyway, if you're enjoying the channel, please do subscribe. And yeah, thank you so much. And so without any further ado, my 27th favourite read of 2022 is A Time for Swords by Matthew Harvey. So this is historical fiction and another book inspired by Magnificent Seven. And this isn't one that I spotted. I was like, it has similarities to Magnificent Seven. No, Matthew Harvey said it himself. So yes, it is definitely inspired by Magnificent Seven because the author said it himself. And so yeah, this is about the original Norse threat on the English shores as they first presented themselves. The beginning, the initial interactions of a conflict that would last centuries, and it would evolve and also become dramatically bigger and more dangerous. But yes, this is the early stages. So the raid of Lindisfarne, that wasn't actually the first raid in England. There was one other first, but Lindisfarne has gone down as the first Norse raid in England. So let's not get into all of that right now. But anyway, Lindisfarne is in here, so a huge event in English history. And Matthew Harvey does a brilliant presentation of it. And a big chunk of this book is about getting a group together to try and defend a shore and a village. So, yeah, Magnificent Seven inspired. There we go. And I love the cast of characters, how they all come together. You kind of know that they're going to come together and defend this place at the end, but you absolutely love, or at least I did anyway, the journey it takes to get there. And Matthew Harvey is absolutely brilliant at writing action, and he's got a great authorial voice, a bit like what I said about Rob J. Hayes. It's very smooth and efficient. And I've learned Matthew Harvey does not disappoint. I've read 4 or 5 books by him now, and every single one has been a hit. No misses, and I don't think there will be from him. So yeah, that is why A Time for Swords is number 27 on this list. In the number 26 spot, I have The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. So she was a hugely renowned poet, and this is her only fiction work. And this is a book that brilliantly portrays the randomness of life. And we see the good parts as well as the bad, but more the bad. This is a book talking about that randomness. It shows us the joys as well as the catastrophes, going from calm to panic, joy to sorrow. And it is very hard in a book to show that range of emotion without it being jarring, that tone and atmosphere altering so quickly and dramatically. In a book, it is so hard to depict that, as I said, without being jarring, in my opinion anyway. But Sylvia Plath just did it brilliantly, and I couldn't pin it on one thing in particular that she did, but she is just incredible at her craft, and it shows that she has such a grasp of language that she manipulates it brilliantly to, as I said, depict that reality. And I think that's the main reason this book is in the number 26 spot. It feels so raw and real that it is really a powerful read, and it is one that does not shy away from the taboos of society, especially considering this was published in 1963, and so it's about a lot of the pressures of society, about that kind of pressure to solidify yourself in your job and climb that ladder over life, as well as a few others, but I won't go into all of it because part of this book is about seeing how this kind of spiral into an escalation of mental health issues. And so I thought it was brilliantly written and very progressive for its time, and a magnificent piece of fiction. So now halfway through the list, and this is my 25th spot, and it's another historical fiction read, and it is The Wolf Sea by Robert Lowe. So this is The Oathsworn Book 2. My brother Ed and Papa Gwyn both love this series. I didn't quite click with Book 1. I thought it was good, it was a great cast of characters, but I thought it lacked a bit of heart. But the flaws of Book 1 were completely altered and fixed in Book 2, because this keeps that immersion and authenticity, looking at the Norse mindset and the hegemonic values, but then it introduces a lot of heart, and that stems from this group, the Oathsworn, that we see. Whilst many of them actually hate and despise each other, many of them want to leave, but they can't. They are bound together by their oaths, and they would die for each other because of what binds them. And so yeah, it adds that heart, but also maintains the uniqueness of this series and how Rob Lowe really dives into the mindset of the Norse and what really drives them, and looking more at their culture, more than most books anyway. Bernard Cornwell, I think he does a great job of making you feel immersed, and I'm not taking any away from him. What he does is brilliant, but Robert Lowe is attempting something very different in The Wolf Sea, and so it's diving more into that culture and the wider aspects of Norse and Scandinavian society. And so yeah, I found that really interesting, a different lens, different perspective, and I thought it was really well achieved in The Wolf Sea, hence why it's on the number 25th spot in this list. And thank you to Papa Gwyn and my brother Ed for recommending this. So if you're looking for a book to really disturb you to your core and then linger on your mind for months to come, then read this. This is At People, my 24th favourite read. Feels weird saying favourite with a book that is so disturbing and traumatic and terrifying, but it was brilliant, so it's on this list. And At People is part of the Different Seasons short story collection by Stephen King, and I believe it's the second one here, and I definitely highly recommend reading it. Stephen King at his best of his writings that I've read anyway so far, and I've not read too many compared to people who've read all like 70 books he's written. But anyway, At People is brilliant. It is about a boy called Todd who learns something about his neighbour, this old man who lives near him. He's learned about these terrible deeds that he's done, and that he's avoided capture from the government for decades. But instead of turning him in or telling his parents, he decides that he wants to learn everything. So he will blackmail this old man to tell him about all the tortures, all the deaths, and how this old man has avoided capture for decades. And this is a story about power, about the seductive power of evil, and how it can lead you down a path that will affect the rest of your life. And yeah, it is so disturbing, but one that you just cannot take your eyes away from. You can just read this so easily. Stephen King, he brings his strengths as a writer, his authorial voice, his characters and more to this short story, and it makes it feel so powerful and engaging. It doesn't feel like a short story. So much happens in this short story, but it doesn't feel rushed, but it doesn't feel too slow either. It's that perfect balance and pacing as well. And as I said, if you're looking for a disturbing read, I know where to send you. Read this. And in the number 23 spot, I have another 2022 release, and that is The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. So yes, this is Richard Swan's debut release in 2022, and it's great. I really enjoyed it. It took a little while to hit its stride, I think, but then after the first quarter, I thought it was brilliant, and it just got better and better and better, and ended in a climactic, really satisfying conclusion. And I'm really looking forward to seeing where Richard Swan takes this series with the sequel, The Tyranny of Faith, which is released in 2023. This is really fresh fantasy. I believe that Richard Swan is a barrister, a lawyer in real life, and so he's really brought that law lens to fantasy. But it's not overly done, it's just the perfect amount where it's a bit of mystery added to the genre, and I love it when an author comes along and adds something new to the fantasy genre, and that is definitely what Richard Swan has done here. So Conrad von Volt is a brilliant main character. Well, he's not the narrator, it's someone near him who's narrating it, but Sir Conrad von Volt is the character who acts as the catalyst for many of these events, and it's kind of a commentary on him as we follow him through these events that are unfolding. And there's a really great glimpse into the political machinations, but there is a lot left unsaid. So again, there's not just the criminal mystery and this Conrad von Volt, the Emperor's justice, trying to find out who has committed a crime, but there's also the mysteries of what is going on behind these political doors that we're not quite sure about. And yeah, so I'm really looking forward to seeing, as I said earlier, where this series goes with The Tyranny of Faith. I highly recommend The Justice of Kings. Not too long, so definitely give it a go. And maybe if the beginning isn't clicking with you as much, I'd say at least read it to halfway through, because that's where I really felt it had hit its stride and was really, really great. So yeah, really recommend The Justice of Kings. So in the 22nd spot of my 2022 favourite reads, well, say that 12 times really fast, I challenge you, but yeah, in the number 22nd spot is Beyond Redemption by Michael R. Fletcher. So imagine the now quite iconic bromance, the camaraderie between the three main characters in the Greatcoat series by Sebastien de Castell, Kest, Brastier and Falchio. Keep the witty, laugh-out-loud humour, but then subvert it so that those main three characters despise each other, and you have Beyond Redemption. This is incredibly funny, but it's got very serious themes coming into play as well, and I really like the balance that is struck. And I love how these characters, they are forced to be together, and they need each other to fulfill whatever is going on. I won't say quite what, but they need each other, and that's what matters. But they hate each other. They really loathe spending every second of time with each other. There's little glimpses where you think, do they actually hate them? I think they may love them, but there's a thin line between love and hate, and that's really apparent in Beyond Redemption. It was really, really entertaining, and I really cannot wait to carry on with this series. It really took me by surprise how good it was, and yeah, a good surprise, and that's why it's on my 22nd favourite read of 2022. So in the number 21 spot, the final book that I'll be talking about today, and it is Lionheart by Ben Kane, the very renowned author of many series that go around the Roman Empire. I believe he's done a trilogy on Hannibal as well, but I've read his most recent books, and this is Lionheart, and then I've read Crusader and King. So this is a trilogy called Richard the Lionheart, and of course by the title it's about that very famous English king, Richard the Lionheart. And I know next to nothing about him other than he has a small role in the story of Robin Hood. So it's really great to read about this, and obviously it's not completely authentic, and Ben Kane is open about that in his authorial note. A lot of historical fiction, people have to change things, and of course we don't know about all the ongoings, especially the political machinations behind closed doors, and so Ben Kane has shown his take on that. But you still learn a lot whilst reading this. And so our main character is Ferdia, and he is from a noble family in Ireland, and he is taken as a hostage to assure their loyalty. His name is changed to Rufus, and somehow his life becomes intertwined with that of Richard the Lionheart. Richard in particular is a brilliant character. He's very complex. We are shown his emphatic flaws, but also his powerful virtues as well. He is someone who can be very selfish but very selfless from one second to the next, and he's a bit of an enigma, and I've really enjoyed how his character progresses throughout this series. But also Ferdia, Rufus, our main character, is also great. I love how you've got this more epic story of Richard the Lionheart on these political machinations, as I said, and also the beginning of a crusade, but also you've got that more intimate story, and you've got Ferdia or Rufus, his quest for vengeance, but also of survival and how he is trying to evolve to this new life. And so there we go. They are my 30th to 21st favourite reads of 2022. I'm sorry, I couldn't limit it to just 10, but hopefully there's a few recommendations here, a few that sound like they may click with you, and please do let me know in the comments if that is true, or if there are any that you've read and really enjoyed. I'd love to talk to you about books down below, and let me know anything you'd like to see on the channel in the future, and let me know if you'd like me to do a review of any of these books in particular. But as always, thank you everyone for watching, and stay safe.